Okay, there we go. Finally. I was having issues with my audio for some reason. I couldn't get it to work. It just wasn't recording anything, so I just did a couple of test recordings, and now it seems to be working for whatever reason. Anyway, so I'm going to give it a minute, of course, to wait until that number right there, of course, updates to something other than 0. If anyone in the chat can see me and can hear me, then please let me know. But we'll get started here momentarily as usual. Excuse me. And of course, let me know if the audio is coming through clearly or if I need to bump that up slightly. I did adjust it up slightly from last time because it was a little quiet on the last stream, even though I had those kind of choppy bits. I think I've worked that out as well. Just was verifying, that the settings are working like they should be. Okay, well, it's not updating. I don't know if that means there's nobody currently watching or what the deal is, but I started a little bit later than I planned, but only because I was having audio issues for some strange reason that worked themselves out without me really doing anything. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway. So we'll just give that a minute, of course, as usual, and if nobody joins in the next minute or two, I'm going to go ahead and start anyway, and then people can just join in when they join in. So. Okay, now we have a number other than 0. That's what I'm usually waiting for, something other than 0. So as long as I have something there other than 0, I'll go ahead and start. So, as usual, each month I start off with the bosses, which just to kind of show people what those look like. They're, of course, in pieces as usual, but this looks to be an Earth-Air boss based on the color scheme. The next one is Earth-Fire. I don't know about that. Yeah, it's Earth Fire. So, at least by the looks of it, it looks like Earth Fire. And that is a reused boss. We've seen that boss before. So this is one of them. That's the first. That's a new one, it looks like. And then that one we have seen before. It was the Anguish Performer, I think. Fire, if memory serves. It was originally Fire Spirit in the files, but they changed it to Fire after the fact. It was back when we had all those months of elements changing over and over again. So this one is boss 1, and this one is boss 2. Now, of course, that isn't in order, as I've mentioned before. This isn't the order they're going to be in. This is just the order I numbered them. And I'm going to go ahead and copy those over to my folder, just so they're there already. Now we're going to go into the armors. So I did glance through this briefly. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I've only had the files for like 2 days. There are a total of 10 armors. There are 1, 2, 3 Earth Fire, 1, 2, 3 Earth Air, 2 earth water, dual earth of course, and then 1 earth spirit. So earth spirit presumably is going to be our fusion armor. But anyway, just so everyone can see that. So I did say earth fire with a question mark because I think there's an earth fire raid. So I'm thinking this might get changed. So this is our first armor. As you can see, we have the earth swirl at the feet and fire effects. So this is our first one, which is earth and fire, which I think is a pretty cool looking armor all in all. Armor 1, earth fire, and I believe that is male. I'm pretty sure that is male. Actually, no, that might be female. Let me look. I have to kind of look at the breastplate as well as the arms and legs. Actually, no, that is male. Never mind. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, this is the raid armor. That's the armor we just saw, or the raid boss we just saw that had the, that was the new one, not the reused. So this is the raid boss armor number 1, the one that goes with the earth and air. As you can see, earth and air effects there. Hey, Newfies, welcome. I think I'm not sure, I thought you'd already been following me, but that's fine. So this one is earth and air, so this is armor number 2. Earth, air. That one is, I'm pretty sure, male as well. And I believe that is our dual earth. That is our dual earth exclusive right there. So we have the earth effect there, and then we have earth blocks and earth bits everywhere. So this one is the dual earth exclusive, and that is the male also, I believe. Look at here. It might be female, actually. It's hard to tell sometimes on some of these. But that's the dual earth right there. Let me look at these arms. Yeah, I think that's male. Never mind. It's hard to tell sometimes. It's not always as obvious. I think that is the male, but I can of course fix that if I made a mistake later. Audio is still choppy on your end. Oh, it could be your Wi-Fi. As long as the video isn't choppy, that's the main thing, because the last stream I had major issues with the video getting choppy and the audio getting choppy. Video more so than audio, but if anybody else is on the stream and can hear me and watching, let me know if the audio or the video ever gets choppy. It's fine for you? Okay, good. All right, well, it might just be your Wi-Fi, Harlequin. So, anyway, moving on. All right, that is... oh, I'm sorry. This is more likely going to be the raid armor. The other one I had up earlier, this guy here, might in fact not be the raid armor. This one I think is actually the raid armor, but it's earth and air in any case. I think this is actually the raid armor. I made a mistake. So armor number 4, which is also earth and air, that is male. Excuse me. I'm getting over a little bit of a head cold. I have some of the remnants of it left, and that's the female of the same one. Cool. That makes it easy. There is the Dark Tide Executioner. The original armor was the Dark Tide Executioner. This is a reskin. Regular run-of-the-mill recoloring reskin. So this is exactly the same as the original armor in every way, except for the colors. So it'll have the same ring and amulet set. Everything will be identical otherwise. It'll just be new colors. So still earth and water, just like the original one was. So this one is likely going to be a war armor. Armor 5? Yeah. Earth, water. And that is male, I'm pretty sure, as well. And there's the... Yep, that is the female. So I did get it right. So the dual earth up here is actually the... Whoops. Is actually the male, and this one's the female. The female variant of it. And this is the earth and fire we saw at the beginning, and I was wrong. Actually, this one is in fact the female. And this one is the male. So it's hard to tell, as I said, with some of these, because it's not obvious in the looks of the armor until you look at the female versus male, especially the chest plate. Like if you look here, the chest plate is much more broad on the upper end of it and narrower at the lower end. So you can see it has a much narrower waist. And if I go to the male version and I scroll in here, you can see it's much more wide. So it's more kind of straight up and down, as opposed to being kind of more of a V shape, if that makes sense. So kind of more like this, as opposed to just like this. So just not always as obvious, though. Some of them look identical, and you can't really tell until you look at other variables. So this one is kind of a restyling reskin. I don't know how to really describe it. It's earth and fire anyway, but this is I'm thinking it's called the Hell's Chevalier, but it was a dual fire fusion only armor. It has a very similar shaped head, obviously a little bit different, but it had that same kind of plume of fire hair thing in the back, and the shield is nearly identical. and the weapon has just been reworked. So it has the bottom end of the, I think it's called the Tectonic Bulwark. It was Earth and Fire, but it has the blade of the Hell Chevalier, but twisted, so it's like turned on the side, if that makes sense. So it looks very similar to that armor in a lot of ways. I think the armor itself might in fact be the same, but just recolored to be more Earth and Fire instead of just straight fire. And I'm sorry I keep looking up there. I have my monitors set up now, so I have them over here and here, and you can't really see because they're here and there. But I have a new camera also, but I've moved it, so it's in front of me here. And so I'm accustomed to looking there for the camera, but it's slightly over there, so I keep looking that way. So just ignore me looking that way slightly. I just keep looking that way out of habit. But anyway, so this is, as I said, the Hell Chevalier, I think is what it was called, but it's a dual fire. That's just kind of a restyling, if you will, of that armor. And I'm almost positive that's a male. So this is Earth and Fire, male, Evo 2. And for those of you not familiar, I put Evo 2 to indicate Evolution 2, or the final evolution. Evolution 1 is at level 50, and then the base is just base. So everyone knows what that is, if you didn't already know. So this is our Earth and Air Raid armor. That is the male, but this is one step down from evolution, from the Ascension, so Evolution 1. There's the female of the Earth and Water Dark Tide Executioner reskin. That is a step down from Ascension on the very first one, which is that one right there, but it's one step down. Okay, this is what I mentioned about the Earth and Fire raid. This is the armor that goes with that raid boss. So whether it is in fact... Oops, I'm in the wrong window, sorry. Whether it is in fact the same or not, I honestly don't know, but that's what it would look like to me. Because this is the same armor that was used with that raid boss, so, and it is Earth and Fire, so you can see Earth effect there and water effects, you know, around it. So it's Earth and Fire, but whether they keep it that way, I don't know. That's just what's currently in the files, so it might be changed, but that's what's in there now. So this one is the male, I believe. So that is raid armor number 2 as of now. Also Earth and Fire. Also male. So that's the female of this very first one, I think. Yeah. The female version of that one. So it's the same armor, just the female version of it. And this is a new-ish one. It kind of has some similarities to previous armors, but it's also new in its own ways. This one has a very kind of similar look and feel to the Forest Monarch. It was Earth and Spirit from a few seasons ago. Very similar kind of just feel to it. The shield's different, and the weapon's a little bit different, but the helmet's very similar. Just some of the styling of it is very similar, but it's Earth and Water now. But anyway, so it has kind of like a base, looks kind of like the Forest Monarch in a lot of ways, but not exactly the same. So this is armor 8. That's Earth and Water. That is male. And here's the only Earth and Spirit in the files, which in my opinion is actually my favorite armor, except the dual Earth. As far as looks are concerned, it just has these flares and things going on with it. I just think it looks cool. This is the Earth and Spirit, so presumably this is going to be the fusion armor. So, because normally Earth and Spirit would have been the exclusive / elite, whatever term you prefer, for the month for Earth month. But this is, since we switched to dual Earth exclusive, this is now fusion. And this is the only Earth Spirit in the files, as of now. And this, of course, may change. They may change elements. They may change looks. I don't know. But this is the 9th armor of the 10. That is the Earth and Air up here. I believe that's the female. Yeah, that's the one step down from Ascension. There's the female one step down from Ascension from the very top one, or the second to the top one, I should say. And there's the female version of the Earth and Fire Raid armor, which I'm pretty sure that's the right one. Yeah, just double checking before I mess myself up. There's a step down. That's the male version of the same one. And here's the last Earth and Air. Now, I've mentioned this in prior streams. It almost seems like they have a different art team doing these, because the look and feel of some of these armors is very different than any previous armors that have been put in. So, I mean, I could be wrong. It might not be, but the armors themselves actually look slightly different as far as their stylings are concerned. Maybe they just have a new person that works on the art team that's doing some of these. I don't know. But this is the last one. This is the last Earth and Air. So this is our Earth and Air number 3. And then we have 3 Earth and Fires, and we have Earth and Spirit, Earth and Earth, and then 2 Earth and Water. So there's 10 in total, which is weird because there should normally only be 9. Anywho, moving on. So this is the last one. This is Earth and Air. Earth, Air, and I'm positive that's the male. Now we just got to get the rest of them. So this is the female version of that Earth and Fire, which I think was this one here? Yeah. There's 3 of them, so I want to make sure I'm not messing myself up, because I do that frequently. I'll start renaming the wrong files. And it messes me up later on. So this is the female Step Down from Ascension. Oops, sorry, wrong one. There's the Step Down from Ascension on the Dark Tide Executioner reskin, which was Earth and Water right there. Yeah. Just making sure. Again, because I have messed myself up in the past. Oops, hang on. Let me go back. Did I rename the wrong one? I probably did. No, that's the female. Oh, did I just copy and paste the wrong name? I might have done that. Yeah, I did. Just copied and pasted the wrong name. So this is the female version of the same armor. And again, it's not obvious all the time on these, which one's which. So just as a comparison, let me move this over here so I can kind of zoom in a bit. It's not always as obvious. So if you look at the chest, they don't really look that different. Like if you look here compared to there, they don't really look that different. I mean, the arms are even roughly the same size. Well, you look there and you look there. If you look at the outside arm, the out-facing arm, as opposed to the one facing inward, where'd it go? There it is. You can't even always tell there, because they look virtually identical there too. You can even look at the legs and see the gap between them. It's not really obvious which one's which. So that's part of the reason why I have a problem with these occasionally, is because without actually comparing them side by side after the armors are assembled, it's not always obvious which one's which. So, and even the heads aren't really a good indication, because the head looks exactly the same on both of them, right there and there. So they used to have some that had different stylings on the heads for the female versus the male. But literally the only difference is the size, like from top to bottom, the actual height of the armor, because the female and male are slightly different in height. So until you put the armor together, it's not always obvious. So I'm going to assume that for now this is still the male, and I'm going to name this one as the female, because I can't really tell at this point in time until I assemble it. And if it looks shorter than the rest, it's the female version. So anyway, Earth and Water, that's this one here. That is, oops, wrong one. Wrong one. That one is the female version of the same armor. And again, it's not always obvious, but if you look at the waist, it's just more narrow. That's usually the fastest way to spot it, because again, the head looks no different. The arms don't really look different. The legs don't really look different, but the waist is just narrower right there. That's the easiest way to spot it. So anyway, moving on. Okay, so that's that one. There is the, I think it's a step down from Ascension on that one. Maybe not. Yeah, it is. It's a step down. It doesn't have these little additional flares on these little wing things on the side. So that's also male. But one step down from Ascension. Okay. Back to our original first Earth and Fire. That is the male. Up here at the top. And I do this, by the way, every time I stream for any people who are new watching this. I sort them out just so I can keep track of which one's which in my head, because I later on in the month I do assemble every one of them. But for the live stream, I only assemble the male versions of each armor, which I may change in the future. I may do a couple here and there that are, I'll do a female only one time. I don't know. Just haven't really experimented with that, if you will. Okay, so that's the base of the female version of the raid armor, and immediately afterward the base of the male. So that makes it handy. That one's done, other than the rest of like the head and the ring and amulet. Okay, that's our very first one. That one is the male, I think, but the base. And there is our dual Earth. That's a step down from Ascension on the male. Again, looking at the waist is always the easiest way of spotting it, but that's not always a given. There's our earth and fire. I think it's that one? Yeah. So that is the male one step down from ascension. There's the earth and water down toward the bottom. That one, I think. Yep. And the male. The earth and air at the end, but that's the earth and air female version. And some of them are dead obvious. It's like, oh yeah, if you look at that when you scroll in, much narrower waist, it's very obvious that it's the female version. But not all of them are that way. Okay. That's the female of the earth and water down here at the bottom, but it's the female version of the evolution one. There's the female version of the evolution one at the top, that one right there. There's the female earth and fire, I think it was this one. Yeah. There's the earth and fire at the top, that is the female, yeah, female one step down from ascension. And there's the female base of the dual earth. Or is that just one step down? Oh yeah, it's just one step down. Not quite to base yet. There we go. Okay, there's the earth and air. The one at the bottom, that's the female. Yep, that's the female one step down. There's the female base of the very top earth and air, I believe. No, not that one. At the very top. This one right here. There we go. Same as that one, but it's the female version. It's easier to copy and paste than have to type the whole thing from scratch. Okay, here's the earth and water at the bottom. This is the male base. There's the earth and fire. Was this one? Yep. There's three. Again, I'm just making sure. That is the male. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Male base. There's the dual earth base of the male. And for some reason, Windows doesn't like it when I rename folders or files in folders without while I still have the image displayed. So it creates these random temp files for me for no obvious reason. Okay, earth and fire, I believe that one was this one. Yes, good, okay. So that is the base of the male. And there's the earth and spirit at the bottom. That is the... Again, I can't always tell. I'm going to say that's the male. But one step down from ascension. Base male of the top earth and water, which was this one, yes. There is, again, can't really tell. That's Earth Spirit's just one of those ones that you can't really easily tell which one's which until they're assembled. There's the base of the earth and fire at the very top. That is the female. There's the base of the female of the earth and fire right there. No, next one down. Right there. Yep, okay. That's the female version. There's the base of the female dual earth. Base of the female of the earth and water. It was that one? Yep, cool. Pretty sure it was, but just being on the safe side. So is anyone having any issues with video or audio glitchy or kind of choppy like it was last stream? Just pausing for a moment to see if anybody's having any issues with that. And also, is the audio level good, or is it kind of quiet? Just want to make sure before I continue on, because I can always turn the audio level up. So. Okay, everyone's everyone's just watching and not talking. That's fine. Alright, that's the male base of the very top dude. Very first Earth and Fire. That's the female base of the first Earth and Fire. I think it was this one. Yep. Whoops. I don't want to do that. There we go. Base of the Earth and Water at the bottom, but that is the female base instead of the male. There is the base of the male Earth and Air at the bottom. Base, I believe, of the male of this Earth and Spirit at the bottom. Not positive, but I'm just going to go with it being male. And there's the base of the female of the Earth and Air, which is obvious because it's a much narrower waist on the chest. And that's the base of the female. Again, I'm just assuming because I don't have anything left otherwise. And now we have, these are the wings. So, the cape, wings, whatever term you prefer. That's it right there. Resting, where you have it kind of just down like this, where it's just, and then you have the flared up version. So the upper one is the flared up version where you're in battle versus the one where you're just standing at rest is the lower one. So and there's always two identical pictures. You probably can't see it as easily, but up here it says 61 and 60. So that's exactly the same image twice. Don't know why, they do it every month. And then there's the image, the avatar, if you will, of where it would kind of be positioned on the body. So that's the wings, cape, whatever. I'm going to move those three really fast into their own folder. This was 63, yeah. Cut that, move it into its own folder, call it cape. I call it cape even though it's been really wings for the past several months, but whatever. So this is cape. And now we're going to go into heads, pets, rings, and amulets. So the very first one is our Earth and Fire. That's the very first one at the top. And just remember that one being the first one. There's our Earth and Fire down here, I think? No. The number 8, I think it was. Yeah, number 8. Okay. And really quick before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and find the ring and amulet sets for that one because I know what they look like already. I'm just going to jump ahead here, so ignore me for a moment while I find the ring and amulet set. So 80 is the amulet. And 82 is the ring. So that's actually the third iteration of that armor. So the first one was originally in the files Fire and Spirit. It became Fire and Fire, but they kept the amulet stats at Spirit strength, so it ended up being one of the strongest dual fires at that point in the game because it had Spirit stats on the ring. Or on the amulet, excuse me. So the second one was the Legacy of Its, I think it was, which was a raid armor, which was water and air, water, whatever. So this one is the third iteration, the third version of this armor, and all they've changed is the colors. Personally, I like the look of the water and air version of it better, but again, that's just personal preference. So this one is the ring that was originally used on that, and that's the amulet that was originally used on it as well. This actually looks just like the shield, and that looks just like something on the head if memory serves. So anyway, I just wanted to get those out of the way really fast while I was thinking about it. So this is the Earth and Fire, I think it was number 6? Yeah. 6 is head. And I don't know about the ring and amulet set on that one. I'll have to figure it out as I go. There's the head for the Earth and Air at the top, which I think was number 2. Yep. And then we have the Earth and Spirit at the bottom. Earth and Water, which was I think this one. Yeah. Again, just making sure, because there are 2 of them and I just never remember which order they're in until it's too late. There's one of the animals, or the pets. So this one looks like a ram, like a sheep, ram, but it has these bells all over it. I don't know why that is, but that's just the look of it there. That's probably tier 5. That looks like tier 4. There's a head. There's tier 3 most likely. There's some of the looks of the pet. There's tier 2 and tier 1. Actually, it's kind of makes it easy because the number of bells. So this one has a whole bunch of bells, so tier 5. This one has less, so tier 4. And tier 3 actually has 1, 2, 3 of the same color bells, or I guess there's 4 in total, but and then this one has 2, and this one has 1, so that makes it easy. All right, so let me move these out into their own folder as well. So we have 69, 70, and 81. Whoops. I know those for a fact are. Let me just make my own folder here. We'll drop them in here. Now we're going to go back to the beginning here. So we got those named. So we have 75 to 79. Okay. I'll just get those out of the way really fast as well, because I know there's more than that, but that at least gets some of them out of the way. Alright, here we go. And there should be at least a couple more images. So 86. I think that's it. It's just 86. Cool. Okay. 86. Alright. And I'll double check the count because there should be 10. And there are 9. So I'm missing one. I must have missed one in the list. Probably just skipped past it. Maybe it's just farther down. It is. It's number 98. I didn't get all the way to the end. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to really quickly rename these. So this one is, whoops, tier 5. And that's tier 4. And that's tier 3. And 78 is tier 2. And 79 is, oops, no, not 79. 81. Tier 1. There we go. Pets are done. Alright, back to the heads. So this one is our raid armor, which is Earth Air Armor number 2. I think it's that one. Yes, it is. Perfect. That's the Dual Earth, which is armor number 4. 3. And that's the dual or the Earth Air at the bottom. That one right there. And there's the Earth and Water up toward the top, which was, I think, this one. Yep. That's the Dark Tide Executioner reskin. Every way looks exactly the same as the original, which actually I should grab the Ring and Amulet set for that one too really quick while I'm at it, because they're going to look the same as well. So 91 is the amulet. And 97 is the ring. Again, exactly the same look and feel as the original, just recolored. Okay, now we get to go into the ones I don't know. So that one, now every one of the rings, of course, is going to be Earth, so that's not going to be really, narrowing things down for me. It's mostly just matching them up to looks. So I'm going to pull this one out here, just so I have it to the side of it, so I can kind of go through them all and look and see which ones look like they fit. That one looks like it fits with this armor right here. A very similar color scheme. It has kind of these lighter, kind of bluey purple looks underneath here, and then it has the same thing in the armor as well as the head. And in fact, similar flares on the shield and the helmet to what's here. So I'm thinking that probably goes with that one. We will see, but I think that's probably the one that goes with that one. So number 84, we're going to assume is armor number 10. We'll move along and go back to here. That one's the Earth and Fire. I can tell that one already. Now this one has an air amulet. So that's not it. That's probably it right there. Most likely. Because it has the same kind of gem look. The flares are very similar. The golden kind of piece there in the center of it looks reminiscent of this gold centerpiece right there. It looks very similar. So we'll just assume, again, for the sake of argument, that that's the amulet for it. Okay, one down. Again, I'm just assuming this. I could be wrong, but I will of course realize my error later on when I go through and go, oh, wait a minute, I don't have a ring for that one. And then I look at it and go, oh, because I'm stupid. It goes with this one instead. So anyway, just a matter of kind of a process of elimination most of the time. So this one, very earth and fire look to it. Actually, I saw that look right there on this amulet right there. That looks exactly the same as this one. It even has the same kind of like what looks like tree branches and stuff coming out of the top of it. Sorry, just one second. Got somebody messaging me online. Sorry, he's messaging me, asking me a question. I'm just making sure I'm answering it properly. So bear with me for just a moment. I'm just going to assume that was what he wanted and go back to what I was doing. So this has the same look and feel. It actually has that same kind of look right there, as well as the same, like I said, kind of tree branch looking things coming off the top. So that's the ring for number 1, which is number 89. Okay, now let's go back to the armor. Back to the beginning here. So this is the first one, which I don't think that goes with this one. Doesn't look right to me. No, don't think so. I know where that one goes. That's water. That one looks like it might, maybe, be the amulet for it. It looks like it probably is. Because there's only, there are 3 earth fires here, so it's impossible it could be a different one. But actually, no, I already got one of them out of the way. So it's possible. It might not be this one, but I think it probably is, because it just looks similar enough to it. Has the same kind of flames and things coming off of it, but I'll come back to that one just to be safe. I already got that. That's the ring. Oh, never mind. It's right there. That's the amulet for the same one. And again, it looks like the same kind of style. It has the tree branches and whatnot coming out of it. So audio is coming in and out. Is it like choppy, or is it just kind of like fading in and out? I'm asking because it might be a level of like volume, because I can adjust the volume up if it's too quiet. It might also be just my positioning. I may have to move my mic a little over here because I'm kind of more to the right than how I usually am, so moving my microphone might be better. If it's actually choppy, like completely going in and out versus just volume kind of fading in and out, it might just be my positioning. I'm not close enough to the mic. But anyway, this is the amulet for this armor. So armor number 1. So that's number 92. Okay. That makes that one easy. So number 1's done. Let's go on to number 2, which I think, yeah, I do not have number 2 yet. Okay. Go down here to the bottom, to the rings, move that to the right. Okay. So this one, I'm pretty sure that does not belong with this one. It doesn't look right at all. That one, I know where that one belongs. That one's a water. That's wrong as well. This one has like kind of like a lion head to it. I don't think that goes here. This one looks more like a tribal sort of like thing. I don't know. Not that one. There we go. That's it right there. So armor number 2. And that is number 95, which is the ring for that armor. And we'll go back to the image here and look for an amulet. That's not it. There's the amulet right there. It looks just like the shield. Wow, what a coincidence. It usually does. It's not that abnormal. So number 99 is the amulet for that one. There we go. Groovy. Okay, back to number 83 here. Let me go back to this, and we'll move this along to number 3. This is our dual earth. It does have a lot of flames on it, so it's entirely possible it might go with this one. The issue I run across is that it doesn't look similar enough to any part of the armor, really, to fit. So I don't think it goes with this one. At least I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I don't see that look anywhere on this armor. Although I do see that diamond shape. That's not abnormal to see a diamond shape in armors, but there's no like wings. If you look here, there's like wings on the side of it. I don't think it goes with this one. Because I don't see any kind of wing looks to it. Hey, KSK, well, how's it going? So this one, no. This one, no. That one looks very reminiscent of the shield. Very similar shape to the shield. Also similar shapes to the horns that come off of the shoulder plates. All that good stuff. So that's most likely going to go with this one. So that's the amulet for the dual earth. So number 3. I'm going to go to here to number 88. That is the amulet for number 3. That's the dual earth amulet. And that has like a lion or a panther look to it. I don't know if that's really going to go with this or not. I don't think it does. I don't see any kind of panther anything on this. I don't think so. Let's move on. No, I don't think so. No, don't think so. There we go. Looks just like the shoulder. Same kind of horn thing coming off the shoulder. Alright, so that's that right there. So that's the ring for it. So that's number 100. So there's our ring and amulet set for the exclusive done. Let's go back to here. We'll skip along to this one. Oh yeah, I've seen that ring and amulet set already. Okay, so that still doesn't look like this ring. Doesn't have the right look and feel to it. It doesn't really have any wings. This looks more like some kind of like insect or plant-based looking thing. It looks more like kind of like an insect or a Venus flytrap with these kind of like things here. I don't know, but it doesn't look right for this one. I know about you already, not you. That one I don't think so. Nope. That's the ring for it because it looks just like the shield right there in the center of the shield. So that is number 4's ring. Some of these I've already done, so I'm not really worried about them, but I want to finish the rest of them up. So number 96. Yeah. Had to look again just to be sure. Ring. Now I gotta find the amulet for it. That's the Earth and Spirit. There's the amulet right there, number 102. Handy dandy. Okay, cool. Close you. Back to here. Let's move on to that one I already know. I already got that one. That one's done. This one. This is the one I need to get next, which I'm pretty sure I already know that this one, is it this one here? Yeah, that's the amulet for it because it looks just like the shield. Just switched over to the other side. So instead of it being like faced this way, it's faced that way. So it's the same thing. So there's the amulet for number 6. Which is 85. And that one, no, I don't think so. I was going to say that might be the ring for it, but it doesn't have that. Oh, there's the wings right there on the side of the head. I just saw it right there. So if I zoom in, look at the side of the head right there. There's the same flares and the same diamond shape on the front of the helmet. So that's that. That one's sorted out already. Sweet. So 83 is armor number 6. Cool. Alright. Can now close you. Go back to here. Move along to that one, which I've already done. Now the earth and water. This one. There's the panther head right there. I'm blind. And there's the amulet for it. Handy dandy. Okay. This makes my life a little easier because they have already kind of eliminated each other out of mix. I don't have to worry about which one goes with which. So that has the same ring and amulet, or the same look, excuse me, as the shield. The same kind of panther, well, I don't know if that's a panther or a tiger or whatever. And the very next ring has the same look. So that's easy. Done. Okay, so number 87 is the amulet. And 80, whatever that one was, is the ring. Cool. That means I have exactly 2 left. And I have exactly 1 armor left to assign it to, which is this one. Our only earth and spirit. Which is that right there. Which looks just like it. Same color scheme. And the thing right here that looks just like the shield. Cool. Alright. That's easy. So last but not least, we have the Earth and Spirit, which is number 9. The only 2 ring and amulet sets we have left, simple enough, are done. And then the final 2, of course, are the materials for season 44. So we have what looks like an egg or something in like a little base that looks like it's like a plant. And then we have a mirror, kind of a handheld mirror. So audio's kind of funky at the moment, don't really hear anything. Okay. Again, just to clarify, is it coming in and out, or is it just gone? Or does it kind of fade in and out? I'm asking because the last stream I had audio and video kind of really choppy. Like the video would actually freeze at moments and then start back up again. I tweaked my settings for this stream a little bit to hopefully mitigate some of that from before, because at some points last stream, people couldn't, like my video was outright freezing. I watched the recording and it was like freezing for like a second or two at a time, and the audio would sometimes just cut out completely. But I guess as long as you can see what I'm doing, that's the important bit. So this is season 44. Good Lord. So there's the 2 materials. Okay. So we're going to take these here, ring and amulet sets, heads, all that good stuff. Can't hear anything at all. Okay, well that's not good. I'm still showing audio on my meter, so it's registering I have audio, but apparently not everyone's having the same experience. Because KSK is having audio, or having no issues at all, but others are having issues with audio and they can't hear anything. Is the audio like, is it too quiet, KSK, or is it about right? I just want to make sure I've got at least got the volume level set correctly. I may have to tweak my settings still more. Is the video at least working properly? Is it choppy at all? I'll ask the question in the chat. Oh, weird. Okay. Might just be an issue with the stream, might be my internet, who knows. I may have to tweak the settings some more. I may have to do a couple more streams just on the off chance that it might just be my settings. So, cool. Alright, just wanted to be sure. Alright, we will move those, or sorry, copy, don't cut, into here. And it's gone again. Lovely. I am going to go into my settings. Bear with me for just a quick second here. I'm going to go into my advanced audio settings here, and I'm going to bump up the level a little bit more. There we go. I don't think I can actually change my video stream settings while I'm streaming. Pretty sure I can't anyway. Yeah, my audio's pretty straightforward. There's nothing out of the ordinary there. Yeah, I don't see anything that I can change quickly on the fly. Yeah, I can't change any settings on the fly really while I'm streaming, so. But I can at least tweak the audio and video settings later just to see if that might fix it, because video seems to be okay. Huh, weird. Huh. It's gone again. Now it works. Now it's gone again. Now it works. I don't know. Sorry. I may have to tweak my settings a bit more again, but I can move my mic around if it's too far away from my face, but I don't think that's the issue. Okay. So, let's go ahead and get to assembling these armors. Because we have 10 in total, so I'm going to do 5 at a time here. I don't need the color scheme right now. Color palette, whatever. 2, 4, 5, and 3. Here we go. All right. So this part of it, you know, you don't really need audio all that much. It's mostly me just kind of filling dead air as I talk about the armors as I'm assembling them. This one I think is really honestly kind of cool looking. And with the changes to the earth and fire, excuse me, the fire armor stats, this one should actually be fairly decent. As far as stats are concerned, it should be pretty good. Comparatively, I mean, it's not going to be like glorious, of course, because earth and fire usually aren't that great. But they usually have at least decent defense. So, there's that. I'm not really a big fan of these armors that have like no defined chin, because it's hard to tell exactly where you should stop right there. So it makes it kind of hard to line them up. But this part, thankfully, is pretty simple. There we go. Where's the arm? There it is. So there's that armor, without anything added to it. Just so you can kind of see it before it gets covered up by the massive shield. Like a lot of them seem to do. Audio works again. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I want to do it. There we go. Okay, so there's the shield, and it's going to cover up most of that side. So you can't even really see the arms or the details on them, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then we have this massive, like, plant-looking thing that looks kind of like an axe, sort of. I don't know. Not really sure I like the look of this one, like the look of the weapon on this one as much. It's still a cool-looking armor, but I'm not really a big fan of the look of the weapon. Should still be a good armor stats-wise, but I'm just not sure about the weapon on it. Definitely has a plant vibe to it, though. Oh, actually, this is something I've been trying to do more to kind of clean up the edges on this, but there's not really a whole lot of edges to clean up. To kind of make this blend a little bit better with the hilt of the weapon. That one actually blends pretty well, so never mind. I've been kind of trying to clean that up because with a lot of them you can see a defined line. That one's not that bad, but you can see a defined line between the, like where the edge of the weapon is right below the hand, like where it sticks out right here, and then the rest of the hilt that goes below it. So it's sometimes very obvious where that line is, and sometimes it's not too bad. This one, it's not too bad. And this app always seems to somehow lag extremely when I'm using it on a stream. It doesn't do this when I'm using it outside of a stream, like when I'm assembling armors outside of it. But for whatever reason, during streams, it just crawls. 285. That looks pretty good. Put that right about. Actually, that's even a bit big. Let's do 280. Yeah, that's better. A little more narrow. Not quite as big. As usual, it's more wide than it is tall, but that's not abnormal. A lot of the armors are like that. So, we're going to save this puppy. That's this month. This is armor 1, earth, fire. If I could type, that would be helpful. Okay, now we have earth and air number 1. Which I like the look of this armor too. I like this kind of tribal looking, I don't know what you'd call it really. But it looks pretty cool all in all. I like it. Kind of like a totem sort of feel to it. Very tribal sort of, I don't know that I go necessarily to say all the way like to Native American feel to it, but it does kind of look that way. But it has a cool look to it anyway. I like it. Like about like that. Maybe just a bit forward. Yeah, there we go. And it has kind of some feathers and furry looks to it, and kind of it looks more feathery, I guess, than furry. Much more feathery. And there's that one, before I add anything else to it. I like it. I like that armor. Alright, then we have shield. That's going to go right about there. Thankfully it doesn't cover up too much of that arm. Not a massive shield, like a lot of them are. But this weapon is huge. But I do like big weapons. I like the ones that have big hammers, and in this case a big axe, or a big halberd kind of feel to it. It's just a big axe on the thing. I like it. But I like earth armor. Earth armors in general. And earth airs and earth spirits are a couple of my favorites, of course. There we go. And this one, actually in particular, you can barely see that edge. Like right here, if I kind of just erase a little bit of that, you can't even really tell. But when you add the rest of the hilt, the rest of the handle to it, it becomes very obvious where one stops and the other one starts. But if I kind of clean that up just a little bit by deleting a little bit of that bottom edge, if I add it there, you can't really even tell I added it. It's just because it's a little bit of a darker shade, but that seems to kind of blend in nicely because it's behind the armor. So, I don't know. Kind of like with the dual fire, that weapon being kind of in front of the, like almost in front of the face of that armor. A lot of people didn't like that, but that's the way it was intended to be. So, I'm not personally a big fan of the look either, but just that's the way it's supposed to look. All right. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Don't do that. All of it. There we go. Almost chopped a section of it out. I didn't mean to. All right, there's that about there. And width-wise, we're at about the same as the previous one. About 285. But this one's a little bit taller, so it's not quite as bad. Number 2. And here's our dual earth bad boy. Which honestly to me looks very fire-y. Because it has like these flamey bits coming out. Whoops, I went way too far down on that. Has these very obvious flamey bits coming off of the head and the shoulder and the shield. And it's a cool looking armor, don't get me wrong. But it's very reminiscent of a fire armor. Not so much earth. Color scheme, of course, is more earth. But it looks very fiery to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Because it has this kind of goldish color to it that is very reminiscent of more of a fire theme. I don't know. That looks good right there. Hard to line them up when they don't have a chin. Because I don't use like the little forms, the little body shapes as my reference point. I just kind of eyeball them. So it's I used to use that, but I don't anymore because I've just kind of gotten used to the way these armors go together. But kind of have to eyeball it to an extent. But that one actually doesn't look bad, right there. And there's the arm. And we can throw you right. Oh, don't do that. Not in the middle. There we go. So there is the dual earth. Again, without anything added to it, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. Like I said, I do like the look of it. It just looks very earth and fire to me, not really so much dual earth. The last couple of dual earths have a very, very distinctively earth feel to them. But this one has a very reminiscent of a fire feel to it. So that should go right about there. And the weapon is, that's weird. I normally don't have that little bit on the end of it. I may actually have to chop this off and do it as a second piece. Because that's very odd that they would have that attached to it. They normally don't have this, as you've seen with the other armors I just did. There normally isn't anything below the hand because you wouldn't need it below the hand because it's a separate piece. This one has it on there too, so... Although that does make it easier to blend it in, because I'm just taking a piece of the same thing and kind of putting it right behind it. But usually they don't have that. Like, there's the separate piece right there. I don't know why they have it as like, included there. Maybe just for ease of use, I don't know. But, oops, I don't want to do that. I want to use this one. There we go. Getting ahead of myself. Alright. And then this is going to go right about... This will be really easy to blend, because I just did it. Sweet. So there is the dual earth. Everyone can kind of get a good look at it before I move on. Alright. Yeah, for some reason it just lags really bad when I'm on a stream, but works just fine when I'm not. For whatever silly reason. Not really sure why. Alright, so this one is 275. Yeah, it's almost exactly square. Handy dandy. That kind of flary bit right there at the top kind of makes it stick up a bit higher than it would normally. Alright, so there's armor 3. That's our dual earth. Here's the first of our 8 armors. This one has a very distinctive kind of insect feel to it. I did mention that previously, but it has a very distinctive kind of horned insect. Like it has like these, like the shield looks kind of like pincers or something, and the weapon also has the same kind of feel to it. Come to think of it, the boss kind of looked that way as well, so I guess it's not that surprising. There we go, and the legs. There we go, cool. I like the look of this armor too, though. Quite a lot. Like you can see, like this part right here on the shoulder plate especially has a very distinctive, what they call a carapace, or the outer shield or outer shell of a insect. Has a definite kind of carapace feel to it, and there's the spikes on the top and the insect eyeballs, and yeah, definite insect vibe on that guy. I'll zoom out really quick before I add the shield on top of that, just so people can kind of look at it really quick before I put the shield over it and cover up some of the effects. This is not a huge shield though, so it's not as bad. Alright, there's the hand. Line that puppy up there, and as usual I have to blend in that wrist. Make it kind of cleaned up a little bit. There we go. And the bottom end of the weapon, the hilt, the handle, whatever term you prefer. This one should blend pretty nicely as well. Except I didn't clean up that edge really at all. This is what I was talking about earlier. I've been trying to clean these up just a little bit so that they blend a little bit better. That's better. That's much better. Okay. That's cool looking armor, I think, all the way around. I like it. Okay, and this can go right up there. Kind of trying to get it up in that top corner where it's evenly spaced between the upper and left-hand sides. That's about 300 wide. Yeah, that's actually not too far off square either. Not too bad. One of the taller armors, for sure. This is 4. And here is our reskin of the Dark-Tide Executioner, which I kind of like the look of the armor originally. Don't know if I like this one better or worse than the previous, but still a decent looking armor. And I think it is identical in every way except the color scheme to the original. I don't see any obvious differences, even like restylings or anything. It looks exactly the same compared to the previous one. Oops, wrong layer. There we go. Moving the wrong layer around, messing myself up. And there's that one. Just so people can get a look at it before I add the humongous shield. Because this one does have a pretty wide shield. Not really super tall, but really wide. Kind of covers up that right side quite a lot. Okay, so center of the shield right about there. And we have this massive axe-looking thing, hatchet-looking thing. More of an axe, I guess, than a hatchet. Hatchets are small. This is not small. This is huge. Okay, this one I don't have to blend too much of the hand on. Or the wrist, rather. Because it's already kind of there. Think about like that. And the rest of the hilt. Seems most everyone's dropped off there for a minute, and then number jumped back up again. So looked like I had only like 4 people on at one point, and then it jumped back up to 6. So that's good. All right, so let me clean up this one. So this one you can clearly see there's a defined line between the two. Now if I clean that up a little bit, it's not quite as obvious. Go back to here. There we go. So there's that one. Again, it's the exact same armor as the Dark-Tide Executioner, just recolored. Sorry if I'm kind of going out of frame here. I'm just lining this up. Just like I said a little bit ago, to make sure it's roughly the same space between the top and bottom right here, or the top of it, and the left-hand side. And then I can measure out the right-hand side to make sure it's roughly square when I make the box like that. Just to make sure it's square and it kind of fits in the middle of it, where it should, roughly. Okay. 5 down, 5 to go. Are we going to Earth Fire number 2, Earth Fire number 3, Earth Water number 2, Earth Spirit number 1, and Earth Air number 3, I think. Memory serves me right. I'm a little off on my counting, probably. But there's number 8, number 9, number 6, and number 10. Perfect. Okay. Give me just a quick second here. I probably have to open up my other beer because this one's just about gone. Okay. So this one, as I said earlier, is kind of reminiscent, or at least based on, the dual fire fusion armor. I think it was called the Hell Chevalier. It's been probably a year and a half-ish maybe ago, something like that. But this is very reminiscent of that armor. It looks to at least be based on it anyway. The weapon especially. And the head has a very similar feel to it as well. It was dual fire, but I'm just not 100% sure on the name. If it was in fact Hell Chevalier or something else. I think it was, but I could be wrong. I have been wrong in the past, so who knows? Hard to say. I think the armor might be sort of based on it. or partially based on it, maybe restyled somewhat, but I do remember that kind of that V shape on the chest right there on the original armor. So they may have used at least some components of the original on this one. And that arm and kind of shoulder plate right there does also look very similar. But it's earth and fire instead of dual fire this time. So while they are still using reskins, they're at least restyling them somewhat. Except for the earth and water, of course, because that one's exactly the same as the original. But they are at least restyling them somewhat. So this is kind of a combination restyling, like a combo reskin. I've mentioned that before on previous streams, but this part of the weapon here, this kind of Y shape, is from the Tectonic Bulwark, which was an earth fire armor from season 7 or 8 or something like that. It's earth and fire originally, but this weapon here is kind of tilted this way. Originally it was this way, now it's tilted up this way. That kind of flared part right there is based on another weapon. And then this part here is based on another weapon, and they're kind of merged together. So, I don't know. So I wanted just to kind of see, you know, to compare that so you can kind of see what it looks like. But I recognize components of it, but they've changed some other components. So there's the armor. Let me just tap out of there so I can see, so you can see it. And then this massive shield. It's humongous. It was a humongous on the original armor too, even though it was a dual fire. And as per the norm at that time, being dual fire meant it was a glass cannon. Stupidly powerful with no defense and no HP at all. So it was like one of the most powerful most powerful attack weapons at the time, but had garbage HP and really, really low. I think it was 950 or something HP, something like that. It was really low anyway. Blend in that a little bit there. It's a lot longer of a wrist plate than I thought it was, but there we go. Oh, hang on. I gotta see if I can. Do I need to blend this one in? I might not need. I might not need to. It might be okay as is. Some of these I run across do have that kind of section here already kind of, you know, just flat, so I don't need to blend it. But sometimes they don't. It actually blended out quite nicely. And it looks like it's right behind the weapon like it should. Cool. Or right behind the armor, excuse me. Right about like that. Cool. So that one's very reminiscent of that Hell Chevalier, but restyled. The head's entirely different. The face of the helmet's entirely different. The shield's very similar to the original, and the weapon has some similarities as well. But it is redone somewhat. And this one is, as usual, much more wide than it is tall. So this one is, yeah, 290 basically wide, but nowhere near that tall, which is pretty normal. For anyone who's watched these before, I mention that all the time. So this is 6. It's very rare for armors to be perfectly square, like perfectly the same dimensions side to side as they are top to bottom. It's very abnormal for that to happen. I mentioned this also earlier. This is the third version of this armor. The first was Fire and Spirit, but was used as Fire and Fire in-game. Raid armor, I think it was. Called the Anguish Performer. Maybe it was War, actually, now that I think about it. But the second version of it was a raid armor, which was the Legacy of Its, I think. It was actually recently as the T20 to T40 reward armor for those that didn't get the top armor. In a war, it was recently or maybe it was a raid. But anyway, it was recently the lower tier reward for anyone that didn't get the top 20. Or top 15, I suppose, on EU. Anywho. I think it might also have been in Arena recently, or at least it will be soon if it hasn't already been. Because I know that they kind of shift those around a bit, so sometimes it'll be in Arena as the top 50 reward there. But it will sometimes be also in Wars or Raids as the final event rewards for those that rank just below the top tiers. So that is that armor. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Kind of looking at it to make sure it looked right, but it didn't look right at first. Okay, shield. Another one of those massive shields, but thankfully it does still show some of the effects through it. There's that armor before I add anything to it. I'm gonna click out of there. There we go. And then the shield covers up almost all of that right-hand side. Unfortunately, it does cover up most of it. And then the weapon is, in my opinion, kind of simple. I don't really like the weapon as much compared to the rest of the armor with these kind of flares and kind of feathery bits, I guess you could call it. This one does actually have that little bit of blending I need to do. Clean that up just a little before I bring in the rest of it. And then this is going to go right about here. There we go. Looks good. All right. So there's that one, which at this point in time looks to be the second-rate armor. Or, again, I'm not sure on the order, but there's an earth and air and then an earth and fire, which is really abnormal because usually it's earth and air and then earth and spirit. So they might change this. So I guess keep an eye out. We might update this later, but for now it's earth and fire. I don't know why. I was just mentioning how it's very rare for armors to be square, and that one almost is. Okay. Now the earth and water. Again, this one is fairly reminiscent of the Forest Monarch. Somebody's messaging me online. It has very similar look and feel to it in a lot of ways. The shield's totally wrong, but the head has a similar kind of crown shape to it, but it's not exactly the same. It's just similar. It just reminds me of that armor somewhat. All right, and then we have this one has a kind of a simplistic design, but I like it. It's not too overly ornate. It just has kind of a cool look to it. Like about there. There we go. Very similar to the Forest Monarch. It was very similar in that respect. It had a very simple, kind of cool look to it without being overly over-designed. So it wasn't quite so ornate, I guess is the best way to describe it. It just looks simple and nice. I like it. Just cool. Looks cool. And with it being earth-water, it's likely going to be a tank. I think this one's probably going to be a seasonal. I'll go through that, of course, more in detail toward the end when I'm kind of finishing things up, but I think this is likely going to be one of the seasonal armors. There's that one. So, kind of cool. I like it. The shield, of course, is very, very minimal. Very small by comparison, which I kind of like because that still leaves a lot of the armor looks out in the open so you can still see it. It's not quite so hidden away. And this big, huge sword, which I like big swords too. I like big weapons in general. This one kind of looks like a regular sort of, you know, regular medieval sword without being too overdone. There's that. And I'm going to look at I'm probably going to have to blend this one in a bit too. I'm just kind of take the edge of that off there. And then I'll put the other one behind it, right here. Let me see here. Let me put this back behind, just to kind of blend that in a bit. Bear with me for just a quick moment. I'll be right back. Yes, I'm still live right now. Okay, so that one, let me zoom back out. There we go. So that one's done. And yeah, so that one, like I said, does remind me of that. I think it was fairly recent too. It was like season. I'm trying to think of when it was. My daughter just had to come in and grab something. Was it season 32 or I don't remember what it was, but it was the Forest Monarch. Anyways, I've said that a few times. I keep repeating myself, but it's very reminiscent of that armor, I think. That one's also much wider than it is tall. Right about there. That's number 8, Earth, Water. Alright, and now we have the Earth and Spirit. This one's just really kind of lots of like flares and, you know, things on this one. It's cool looking, but it seems a little overdone to me, maybe. My grandson apparently is having one of those days. He's literally just out there wailing. You probably can't hear him, but I can hear him. He's out there just wailing that he wants this and he wants that. He's having a very bad day. So I'm just sitting over here going, oh, poor dude. Because he's over there crying and wailing and not having a great afternoon. Probably didn't sleep well last night. He's been a little sick, had a cold for a few days. So I'll put that right about there, I think. Alright. Alright, there's that. Right about. Now that I'm kind of putting it together, I actually do like the look of this armor. Kind of trying to line these legs up right. It's kind of hard to blend these two in together. That looks about right there. Okay. And there's the arm. Now that I'm kind of assembling it, I kind of do like the look of it. The head just seems a little extreme to me. Like these massive flares coming off the top of that thing. It still is a cool looking armor, just I'm not a big fan of this up here at the top. There's that. So there's the only Earth and Spirit, so that's likely going to be our fusion armor. Then we have this massive shield, which again is going to cover the majority of the armor on that side, sadly. But there we are. So there's the shield, and this is going to go right about there, which again sadly covers almost the entire side of the armor there. But it's how they normally are. So, and then we have this massive, and I do mean massive. This thing's the biggest, one of the biggest weapons I think I've seen in the game, actually. With the exception of the Slipstream Scale Guard. If that one had a humongous weapon, I think that's still bigger than this one. But that is huge. It's almost ridiculously huge, in fact. Like, look at that thing. It's just humongous. And then I gotta grab the rest of the hilt, which is down here. This one I don't think I'll have to blend in quite as much because it has two components to it. So it should blend kind of on its own because it has the same piece right there. So really all I have to do is kind of line it up with that. That about right there I think should do it. I'm just going to kind of blend in this edge right here because that's the most obvious blend right there. And then right there just a little as well. Just looks still a little bit off to me. That's better. There we go. Okay. So that's that. There's the Earth and Spirit. It's huge. It's really, in my opinion, a bit too big, but whatever. I don't work for the art team. I just put the armors together. I mean, I put the armors together for people to see them. Whoops. All. There we go. Not just that section. I need the entire armor, please. Brain dead. There's that. Okay, so this is roughly 280. This is probably taller. Oh, actually, it's not. It's pretty close to square again. Surprise, surprise. It's actually pretty close to square. And I was mentioning how this doesn't happen often. I have two of them in the same set. 9 Earth Spirit. There's that one. And last but not least, our final Earth and Water. And this, the reason I mentioned earlier on that it seems almost like they have a different art team is that these armors, like this one and the was it Air and Earth, I think, from a couple months ago, that just looked like it was designed by a different team entirely. Like this looks, it's a cool looking armor, but it looks like an entirely different group of artists designed it. Like the shield is very different than any real shield we've seen previously, up until about the last maybe 6 months, something like that. It seems like they have either a new art team member or a new art team entirely. I really don't know, because some of them are just flat out recolors and reskins. Some of them are combo reskins, like the Earth or the Spirit and Air for this month is a combo of the Cloud Cutter, which is Spirit and Air, and then the I can't remember the other one, but they're both Spirit Air armors. They're kind of mashed together. And I think Doc Redstone mentioned that in his most recent video, that they are kind of mashed together, but it is a blending of two armors. This looks to me like a brand new armor entirely, with nothing that seems to be borrowed from any other armor I've seen. New pet ability revamp. I have unfortunately no idea. All I've been told is that it will be coming soon. I don't know what that means exactly. Soon. Soon could be in a month. Soon could be in 6 months. I don't know. It just kind of depends on your definition of soon. So it's hard to say. It might be in the next month or two. It might be even longer. I truthfully have no idea. All I know is what they tell us in the Sages chat, which sometimes isn't really a lot more than what you might see on Reddit. So, I honestly can't say. I don't know. But all it really is going to do is just cap out the amount of shielding it can do. Which for the dual spirit armors is really not going to change a whole lot from what it currently does. It's just going to... It will eventually stop at some point, and then it will likely just get it'll just stack again eventually. So you might take a hit or two, and then it'll stack, and then you'll, or not stack, but you'll get a hit or two in, or they'll get a hit or two in, the boss will, and then your shield will kick in again. So you might get hit more often, but it won't be a humongous difference from the current way it's working right now. For the dual earth, it'll be a little more obvious because it has the higher defense, generally speaking, but lower HP, so not substantially lower, but it's still lower. So it will kind of cap out a little bit quicker on the dual earths. Got a little bit of bleed over there. But it won't be really as noticeable on the dual spirits. It'll still happen. It just won't be as obvious. And with the other armor's stats getting, kind of bumped up a little bit, the dual fires, the dual airs, and the water also to an extent, which it probably won't be as much. It'll help out quite a lot with those armors having better stats, but it'll still eventually cap out, and eventually you'll start getting hit again by raid bosses or by enemies or whatever in arena, but it won't be as obvious. There we go. There we go. Alright, so there's that one. There's our last armor. There's our third earth and air. Alright, so that one is 262. That one's pretty darn close to being square too. Hush my mouth. It's actually a little bit taller than it is wide, which is abnormal. Right about there. Alright, now let me jump back to my other folder here really fast to check the last dimensions of the one I did before that had 10 armors on it. That one right there had actually 9, but I can use the same width. So that one is 1600. Okay, we'll just use the same dimensions. We'll make it a little bit longer, just so we have the room to work with. Alright, make our square about 350 down to about 700-ish. That looks good. Alright, I'm going to move you down, actually. Did I do that right? Probably did it wrong. I do that a lot. Okay, jump back into here, back into our new folder where all the armors are now assembled. Drop this on here and just make sure it overlaps that line. It goes over it. Perfect. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be on top of that line. There's our earth and fire. There's our first earth and air. I don't want it right on top of the other one. And there's our dual earth, which will end up being right in the middle on the top row, which is kind of cool. And then we have this set of armors. There's not as many wide armors, like side to side versus top to bottom. There aren't as many of those, so it makes it a little easier to balance this out. I may actually be able to shorten this up side to side, so it's not quite so wide. So that'll be handy. And our earth and water here on the far right. Look about like that. Yeah, I can definitely shorten this up. I'll take a look at the second row and see how they line up, but I'm thinking I can probably shorten this up quite a bit. Like about like that. And they are actually lining up fairly well. That's one of the wider armors. Still not that wide, but wider than the other ones anyway. I can always, of course, realign these if I need to later, but it's looking pretty good thus far. There we go. All right. Yeah, I can definitely shorten this up quite a lot. Cool. So how wide am I here? I can do 1450. Perfect. Much better. Okay. Not quite so wide. All right. Zoom in here a bit and get the ring and amulet sets in place. Well, the way that the Shatter Shield works is it's based on defense and HP, meaning if you have a higher defense, you take less damage, and therefore your HP isn't as much of a factor, versus if you have a high HP and high defense, it lasts longer, meaning you take less damage and you have more HP overall. The way that it works right now is because of the way that the dual spirits defense and HP combination together. If you're a guild master or sometimes even guild sentinel or guild champion, your stats are high enough on the defense and HP that you don't take enough damage by the time that the next shatter would generate, the next shield would generate. So that's why they call it stacking. It just stacks over and over again because it never expires or runs out, if you will, before the next one kicks in. So if you have a lower HP armor, the value would be the same, meaning it still, absorbs the same amount of damage, but your defense means you take more damage faster. So that means it would actually last, with lower HP armors, it would actually last less. Or, sorry, with lower defense armors, it would last less, because it's based on the defense mostly. Because if you take, say, 100 damage per hit, and the shatter is 12.5%, your total HP is... Let me do this. I'll even make it easier on myself. So say say your HP is 1200 and it absorbs 12.5. Oops, might help if I put that in right. Times, that's 150 HP. So if it absorbs 12.5% and you get hit for 100, that's 2 hits, and you're done. It'll be done. So you'll take no damage on the first hit and half damage on the second. However, if you have 1784, I'll even put this over here so you can see it. 1784 times 1.25% or 0.125%, which is 12.5%. That's 223. But your defense is what dictates how much damage you take per hit. So it can fluctuate. So if you're only getting hit for 20 per hit on your defense, based on your defense, you're only getting hit for 20. That's 11 hits. And your shatter shield would regenerate in what, 10 or 11, maybe 12? So if you get a stun or two, it'll just keep stacking over and over again, and it'll just regenerate by the time it would normally get knocked down. So that's why it works the way it does. I hope that explains it a bit better. I'm not sure if that helped or not. Okay, so there's the amulet, the shield for that guy, because it looks just like the shield. Right about there. So right now it just runs until basically until your HP has the amount of HP it takes is exhausted. With a new amount, it'll be fixed at a set amount, meaning if it's set to be excuse me, if it's set to be, say, 200 HP that it absorbs, period, and it doesn't absorb more than that, it doesn't matter what your defense is. If you get 200 HP and you hit the max, it's done. So I just don't know exactly how it's going to work yet. But as of right now, that's the way it's supposed to work. So currently, it's not really going to change much for dual spirits, but once they put it in place, I mean, it won't change a whole lot for the dual spirits, but it will change. Just not a whole lot more than, what you might expect. What you might be currently getting, I should say. I'm probably gonna have to reposition those ring and amulets on the far left because they're a little lower than the rest. Largely due to these armors just being taller, but they look like they're down a little too low. These four here, so I may bump them up a little bit higher, just so they're more in line with the rest of the rings and amulets. These two here aren't too far off, but I'm still gonna move them just a little. There we go. That's much more in line with the rest of them, so it doesn't look. Because to my eyes, if they're not all kind of in line here, from just kind of like looking that way, if they're all in the same row right across, it bothers me if they're not. So I kind of have to fix those if they're not. All right, moving into here to line number 2, row number 2. That ring is humongous. And I'll just line these kind of up more along the top instead of the bottom. So they kind of all match up already without me having to do anything after the fact. And I will usually create a separate layer, so I'm not overriding. Whoops, I don't want to move that. So I don't so if I put this right here, it goes right over the top of the armor and kind of blocks it out. I usually do a separate layer, but none of these are too humongous, so I shouldn't need to do that. Don't have to do quite as many layers on this one as I normally would do. And I give myself 350 pixels of room, which is basically from that line there to that line there, which usually covers it, so I don't have to make it any bigger than that. That also gives me room down below to put my rest of my information, like bosses, cape, all that good stuff. Which reminds me, I need to take the exclusive and put the wings behind it as a separate picture. I'll do that actually right after I finish this. And there we are. Okay, so really quickly before I move on, I am going to edit this. I'm going to get the cape out of here and edit that. Then I will resize this, oops, to be about 450 by, let's make it the same size, give it more room. And then I will get rid of this background. And move the armor itself, whoops, not quite low enough, down to this bottom corner. So I have room for the cape. Nope, wrong one. Ha! Wrong one. That's the one I wanted. Derp. Okay. And this is a really, really big set of wings. Like, they are huge. And the color scheme on this looks all wrong to me. It doesn't look distinctly Earth at all, really. So it's going to go right about, let's see, where's the center? Right about there, I guess, roughly. Move it up here just a little, kind of line it up with the center of the back. It's going to be right about there. Right about like that, I guess. Kind of looks a little funky if you ask me. But alright, let's merge these back together and move you up here to about there. How wide are we here? 425. Oh yeah, that's going to need it to be that big. And I'll resize the bottom end of it to be about 340. There we go. We'll save that one as with cape. Okay, so I have that done. All right, so let me get the elements here. Let me go to my other folder here, right there. So let's do fire first, since that's our first element here. And that one with this one. See where I lined that up. I did go below the line. I didn't want to do that, actually. Needs to be, there we go, much better. Try to be consistent with these as much as I possibly can be. Try to put them all in the same general vicinity of where I did the previous one. There we go. And then this one. Roughly there. There's our two fires. And then we'll get our one spirit, since there's only the one of them. Drop that right down around about here. Then we have the two waters, which is this one here. Right about there. And keep doing this all in the same layer. I should probably make another one. After I get done with this, I probably will. Okay, now we have air, and we'll do earth after that. So air we have right about there. Right about there. And right about there. And the rest is just earth. There we go. First row is done. Okay, So I'm going to create myself a new layer here for the rest of my stuff. But really quick before I move on, I just want to give some quick predictions for anyone that might be watching for that reason and might want to drop off. So, because we're currently at about an hour and 45 minutes almost. So Earth and Fire here, the very first one I think is likely going to be a seasonal. Earth and Air is probably going to be a war. Dual Earth is going to be, of course, exclusive. The next Earth and Air is our raid armor number 1. Earth and Water is probably going to be a war as well. Earth and Fire, I'm not sure. Maybe a war? I don't know. This second Earth and Fire here, the second row, second armor, is another raid, because that's the raid armor that's in there. Earth and Water here is probably going to be a seasonal. And then the Earth and Air on the far right here is going to be a seasonal, and with the Earth and Spirit being fusion. So that's kind of what I'm thinking it's going to be this month. I'm just not positive on the Earth and Fires. That's what I'm not really sure about. But the Earth and Water here on the bottom, the third one on the bottom, should be the seasonal, with this one being a war. But I think, if I remember correctly on the calendar, for March, we have 4 weekends. So, yeah, it shouldn't be... there should be only 4 events. So I don't know why there's 10 armors instead of 9. Because it's usually 4 seasonals, 1 exclusive, and then the other 3. Raid, war, so that's 8. And then a 9th for fusion. So the 10th armor, I don't know. I don't know why there's an additional armor in here, but that's what it is. So I'm just going to get this finished up here really quick, so bear with me for a minute longer while I do the rest of my stuff. So let's zoom in here a bit, starting about there. I always seem to make this too wide, but I can always shorten it, of course. Make this into 26, I think. Actually, I made that one just about right. Pretty darn close to perfect. Okay, now let's go back to this folder here. Grab our 2 materials. My guess is that this is going to be the regular seasonal material, this kind of egg-shaped looking thing, with the mirror here, this kind of handheld mirror, being the exclusive material. I could be wrong, of course, but that's just what it looks like at this point. Go ahead and throw the bosses down here since they're right there. Convenient. Right about there. And right about there. Just zoom in here a bit so I can line them up properly. That looks about right there. Cool. Alright, now I need to go back to my elements again. Grab my earth, right about there. And right about there. We have air over here, goofy thing, right about there. And again, I don't know why, but the second raid boss looks to be Earth and Fire instead of Earth and Spirit like you'd normally expect. That might change, of course, but that's what it is as of now. Okay, let's grab the pets, throw them on there. Put you right about there. You right about, I'm going to zoom in here again so I can properly line these up. Right about there. Number 3. Right about there. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Tier 4. And tier 5. Did I copy the same one a second time? I did. There we go. Copied tier 3 twice. Glad I looked. Right about there. Stop it, you dumb thing. Stop. I'm trying to alt-tab and you're not alt-tabbing for me. Right about there. There's the pets. Okay. So I'm probably going to be able to shorten this up on the bottom end too. I made it big on purpose because I didn't think I'd need this much room, but I always like to give myself a little bit of extra just in case. I can probably move these guys up as well. I don't need them quite that low. Like about there. That'll work. Okay. Now I need myself some more text boxes here. So we have pets right about there. Bosses right about there. I actually might shorten that box just a little bit. It's a little too large. There we go. And that box is way too big for bosses. I do that occasionally. Let's take this box here, right about there, and move it over to about right there. That'll work nicely. Okay. Now, as far as centering is concerned, that needs to be centered better. Actually, that wasn't too far off. Okay, cool. Now let's grab our cape. Put it right about there. That looks pretty good. And then the armor with the cape, I need to resize actually. It's too big. Way too big to fit on here. Let's resize that down to about... That might still be too big. Actually, it's not as bad once I make it in its own separate layer. I can still put cape to the side there. Okay. One of the things I like about this application, I can make layers and I can move things around independently of others. I can still put cape down there below it. Okay, good. There we go. Actually, I want to put that in this layer here. Whoops. No, don't do that. Still seems a little off to me. I may have to move that still. There we go. That looks better. For some reason it looked off to me. I didn't like the way it looked. I may actually end up moving this up here, but I think it looks fine as it is. Okay. Alright, so I think other than just, let me just quickly save this. There we go. Before I lose my progress. There we go. Okay. Now, theoretically, I should be able to make one final layer in the very, very back. And I can now fill it in. Ta-da! Looking much better. So now, I can get my color palette back out here. I hate when it does this. It just jumps it all over the place. Yeah. Fingers. Stop fighting me. I may actually need to drop that size down. It's a little bit too big. There we go. That's just about perfect. And then, I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to put my other thing, which is usually right about here. Season 44, Earth. And we'll kind of move that to about there. Okay. What happened happened to my text over here? It got whacked. That's lame. Guess I'll just redo it. Oh, crap. Let's undo that, and undo that, and undo that. Then I have to undo everything I just did because it jacked everything up. So let's go to right. Apparently I have to click out of what I was working on. Man, my fingers are not cooperating with me. There we go. Click out of it, then hit center. There we go. Okay, we're almost there. Almost done. Okay, so my height here is about 1100. That's pretty much what I thought. Bam! Much better. Okay, much more manageable in size. Save my progress. Now I've just got to put in my little text box doohickeys for the bosses. So this one is 2nd row, 4th armor. I could even move the bosses up a little bit if I wanted to. And this one is, sorry, 1st row, 2nd, 4th armor. There we go. This is 2nd row, 2nd armor. I think I actually will move those bosses up just a hair. There we go. Okay, there we are. And we're done. So, I'll be sending this out through the usual channels online, as well as I'll be putting it up on KnD Bot with my predictions. Again, just a quick recap. Earth Fire, I'm pretty sure is seasonal. Earth Air, probably a war. Well, the Earth Air, this one here and this one down here, the bottom row, last one, either one of them could be war or seasonal. Not really sure. Same thing with these two Earth Fires, 1st and 2nd row, 1st armor. Not really positive. But the dual Earth, of course, is our exclusive. Earth and Air, the 4th one, is our raid armor. Earth and Water is going to be a war, most likely. This Earth and Fire here is a raid armor as of now. It might change. Earth and Water here is going to be seasonal. Earth and Spirit is going to be fusion. And again, with the Earth and Airs, I'm not sure which one's which. But that's it. Do I have the official stats for Season 43? No, I do not yet. Hopefully tomorrow. The guy who I normally get them from has been out of the office since Tuesday of this past week. So I'm hoping to get them tomorrow, but I might not be able to get them until Tuesday. So I'm just doing the best I can. I did create some estimates and send them out, and hopefully they're pretty close to accurate. They should be, hopefully. But I'm not really 100% positive at this point. So, but hopefully I'll have them soon. Anyway, that's it. If anyone has any questions, of course, reach out to me online, but I'll be sending this out shortly through the usual channels. So everyone have a great rest of your weekend and the rest of the week, I guess, because it's Sunday. Anywho, thanks everyone, and have a great day.